Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of the Bucs UK TV podcast. This week, we are all doing our victory dances, and we will explain why as we go through everything that was great about the Panthers game. And then we will come on to look ahead to what's going to happen, hopefully this week, against the Broncos when we travel to Mile High. So, first of all, introductions as usual. I'm joined by our club lead, Phil.
Hi.
Fellow club lead, David.
Hi, everyone.
And long-time club member who, if you've watched the previous episode, you will have seen, but first time on the podcast, Ian, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'll just mention briefly that as this is my first time, I first saw the Bucs in Tampa in 1989, been a member of the club since 2002, and been very privileged to travel over to Tampa to see quite a few games. As you say, Kieron, I did a little video clip for a previous episode, and one of the words I said was bleeped out. So what I've learned that it's all in the past, and my new role model is Tom Brady. I mean, goodness me, that was some choice language he came out with on the sideline on Sunday, wasn't it?
And with the low noise crowd being pumped in, you can still hear everything, can't you? So obviously we want your views. This is for the members, by the members. So make sure you comment on the forum. Really good turnout this week for the game. And you can send us your video messages or your messages to mail@bucsuk.org. You can WhatsApp us on 07311 212 713 and obligatory YouTuber language. Hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe, press the bell, all of those sorts of things that the cool kids do. And that way you'll get notified every time we have a new episode. So at that point then, we will join in our victory dance for the Panthers. So, unless you were living in Alaska last week, you'll have realised that the Bucs finally got off the mark, and 1-1 smells much, much sweeter than 0-2. Phil, let's start with the offence. What was your take?
Well, my take on it was Brady again. I thought, especially in the first half, he had so much more time to throw the ball, and he made it count. And one thing that I noticed this week in the press, who have been, your normal negative self, is that they're all about the tight ends. I think it was no coincidence that Brady had more time and we had blocking tight ends as opposed to tight ends downfield. But I thought the offense, considering we had Godwin out, and we had to make up with the other receivers, and I thought the running game, the running back, shall I say, both in the running and in the catching, sort of step forward this week. Yeah, very enthused. And it's funny, Ian was talking about Brady on the sideline. That's what we wanted. That's what makes him a winner, and that's the attitude. That's the mindset we want in Tampa Bay.
Big fan of intensity. No one was more intense on the forum that night than you, David. I couldn't see you, but I could read you jumping up and down with excitement. What was your view?
Yeah, I mean, it was great to see some more offence, and I think it's still going to take time to develop. I mean, they've had 1 week with Evans limited, Godwin out this week. The team's going to gel over time. I think don't expect miracles straight off, but it already started to look going in the right direction.
What was
and we missed some big catches as well, didn't we? There was 3 big plays that we really missed out there that could have made it even better for us. So passing side of it looked on the up, and actually it'd be good to this first week back. We'll have both Evans and Godwin out there, hopefully. So that's going to be positive to see. And we had the first sniffs of a decent running game appear.
Yeah, say a bit more about those drops, though, because, one of them doinked off a helmet, and, Scotty Miller in that back corner of the end zone, he looked like he had it.
you'd expect Scotty Miller to take that, wouldn't you? From what we've seen of him so far, I mean, it was a surprise it went straight through his hands. And the Cyril Grayson drop, I mean, I think he's still in concussion protocol, isn't he, for that pass hitting him on the helmet. But they said that all through practice, haven't they? He's got fantastic speed and athlete, but he is struggling to catch the ball, and that showed he may never get another chance.
Hey, I was going to say I think Larry Grayson could have caught that one, but someone did make a point, and I think it's quite valid. Is there was quite a strong wind at the game on Sunday, and also it was coming across the field. So sometimes that doesn't always come across on the TV, does it? So I think some of the catches in practice were perhaps more difficult than they looked at first sight.
And not just the wind, but also certainly in the second half, you could see on the sideline cameras some of the rain. I think we were all worried looking at the Miami forecast and their stoppage there. Not one of those games, please, where we're sitting there watching the commentators yabbering on for half an hour just with a screenshot of an empty stadium.
I was kind of assuming that in practice Ryan Suckup was kicking it slightly left, because I saw the goalposts go this way a little bit, and presumably that was to compensate.
As a former Britball American football player, I've seen a lot worse than that. But Ian, what was your big takeaway from the game on offense?
Well, I mean, first of all, we won. A win's a win. A win's a win. Getting the win is the all-important thing. I just thought what a great triple running back threat we now have. So we obviously had Ronald Jones kind of chipping away to begin with. We had LaShawn McCoy catching balls. And then later in the game, a pretty fresh Leonard Fournette kind of pounding into a weary defense. So, yeah, I mean, there were a couple of miscues. I mean, the Ronald Jones fumble was a terrible exchange and mistake. And as I think we said, McCoy should perhaps have caught that one in the end zone. But no, it's great to have those options, isn't it? And what will be really interesting for the next game is to, whether he'll do the same thing, Ronald Jones to begin with, Leonard Fournette later in the game, or whether he'll start early with Fournette. So yeah, the running back threat, it's just great to have that. I think
that's a really interesting observation, and I wonder whether, we're never truly inside Arians or Byron Leftwich's head during the game, and what they say after the game may not be what happened during the game. But it felt like Jones was in there, fumbled the ball. Next, McCoy was in there, dropped a pass, bang, you're gone. In comes Fournette, and I think it felt like Fournette was getting more yards, but actually the stats were quite close until the point at which he broke that run. And I think then that's the tale of the statistics. So it would be interesting to see next week what happens with the running backs.
I think the other shout out for me is most definitely the offensive line. Obviously, pretty poor week one. Arians in the press conference after the Saints game laid into Donovan Smith, and to borrow a phrase from another American sport, I think they stepped up to the plate. There was very solid blocking. Brady wasn't sacked at all. Brady was given plenty of time. There was a couple of penalties. I think I remember one from Jensen, one from Donovan Smith. But actually, they were just because they were being overly aggressive. That's not necessarily a bad sign. But the other thing is that we'll probably talk about the tight ends later. But the tight ends were great at blocking as well. So I think all in all, the offensive blocking and the protection and time they gave to Brady was a huge positive from week one.
Yeah, we did discuss the tight ends last week, and we talked about how they were sort of, sometimes you'd get them to chip and then run downfield, and they weren't really even doing that. They were releasing straight away, but you're right, they came in, it gave a little bit more time. And I think, Phil, you sort of said, I think then that time probably made Brady that little bit better, or was it something else?
Yeah, no, that's what I thought. That was one of my main takes on it. I mean, particularly with Gronkowski, I noticed he was staying there and blocking and giving him more time. I think one thing that I think Brady put it the best way in his press conference. He said that, I had a 20-year marriage in the Patriots. I'm only on a second week date this week. We've had no preseason to sort out any problems. I was so encouraged about quite a few, about the offense and the way they performed, particularly in the first half, and the Ronald Jones thing. That they'll iron all that out. They're just teething problems. No, very, very encouraged. Very encouraged.
Yeah, but Tom Brady came up on my Tinder. I definitely swiped right.
I mean, it is a thing with Arians, and it was exactly the same last season, that he does use tight ends to block an awful lot in the game. He does see them as supporting it, which is great if you can start creating a running game and get the spaces to go through and protect the big plays. I actually think that what we'll see is during the season, we'll see the passing to the tight ends to start to develop. Gronk's been out a year. And we didn't get a lot of production out of Bray or OJ last year, and I think it's going to take time this year. But I think that core, as the season goes on, we get a bit more confident. They'll start to move downfield, and I think we'll start to get more passes to them later in the year. I think it's going to take 4, 5, 6 games perhaps, but I think actually second half of the season, when other teams think they might have got us and understand our playbook, I think we're going to open up to a different level.
I'd certainly like to think so. I mean, when you look at the capabilities we've got in Gronkowski and OJ Howard and Cam Bray, but it's difficult to know. I mean, it's never been part of Arians' game, has it? The tight end passing. And I think on Sunday it was something like 3 minutes left in the first quarter before a tight end was even targeted. So I think one of the interesting developments is David, as you say, David, just to see how that develops over the season, because there just seems to be a capability there that just feels a little bit underused at the moment.
I mean, you can get a lot of good blocking tight ends for a lot less money.
I think one of the most important things there, Ian, is it may not be an Arians game plan, but it certainly is in Brady's.
Gronk's going to want to get the ball sooner or
later. I agree with you. It'll develop. That will develop. Yeah, I'm very enthused about it.
Okay, so let's come away from the offensive side of the ball and go to the other side, the D. And David, we'll come to you first. I mean, the D felt for me like they were on a par with last week.
We know the D's a powerhouse. We've got a lot of studs playing at that defensive line, the linebackers, and we know that actually the secondary is learning and getting better and better every week. So they were there, 5 sacks compared with none last week. So, a great improvement there. My big concern was the third quarter, where we sort of went a bit soft. And we didn't have that intensity. Now, whether that was because the offence sort of changed strategy a bit, I don't know. But we did sort of drop off the pace just for a while there, which was a little bit concerning. And, typical Bucs football, you start to worry for a little bit in the third quarter. Nothing's ever easy with us.
We've never, ever got our sort of foot on someone's throat and just, keep the pressure on. We kind of ease off a bit, don't we? Ian, I can see you nodding.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just really, really enjoying the kind of development of this defense. It's fast, it's aggressive, it's attacking. I mean, they're going to miscue, they're going to be blown coverages, missed assignments, but aren't they great to watch? And if you get 4 turnovers as we did in the game, well, actually 5 if you include the turnover on downs, then you're always going to have a great chance of winning, aren't you? So, yeah, I mean, the safeties in particular, I mean, Whitehead and Winfield, I mean, what a great game those two had.
I think Winfield's already in the running for Rookie of the Week or Rookie of the Month or something like that. He's, it's interesting, because of the exposure through Brady and the fact that people are watching the Bucs now, actually Winfield's getting the exposure. It's kind of, it's by proxy, it's filtering down to everybody else.
Oh, he looked good though, didn't he? I mean, he was reading the game so well, and he's got such pace about him.
And he's so little. He's so little. He doesn't. He plays like it's like he's 6'2", not was it 5'9" or something.
Yeah, I think that the defense did really, really well, especially again, particularly in the first half. They looked absolutely unstoppable. But I think a word here for Jason Light here. He may not be the best general manager at drafting kickers, but he certainly can do it on defense. I mean, 2018 he got Vita Vea, then we got Devin White, who's going to be a colossus in this league, and now he's got Winfield. So he's building slowly but surely A1 defence, really
There's
is.
Sean Murphy Bunting as well. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, he seems to have gone on to another level. I mean, he's my early pick, I think, for Pro Bowl this year. I think he's making a lot of noise in a good way. As in, he's backing it up with what he's doing on the field as well.
I mean, if you're on the other team, how do you sort of do a game plan when you've got the Dominican Sue, Pierre Paul, David, Devin White, all coming at you and Vita Vea all at the same time? You know, it's pretty
I
damn
did see
frightening.
a tweet that had all the various snap counts for the defenders, and I think something like 9 of the 11 were in for more than sort of 85% of the downs. So I guess I worry over the length of a season whether we have the depth there. But one good thing of depth I thought was Will Golston.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, one of the things I think generally in terms of the pass rush was how impressive all three of the interior linemen were. So Vita Vea and Sue and Golston. I mean, the pass rush was very good. We're probably a little bit leaky on the run game, but I think you look at Christian McCaffrey. There's probably a reason he was number one on most people's fantasy draft boards. He's a decent running back, and generally, we contained him reasonably well. And as I said, a win's a win.
And if you did pick him up on fantasy football, sorry but not sorry. We won't miss him for a few weeks. But question is, all these injured players, and there seems to be a lot of injuries around the season. Who knows how long someone's out for at the moment. It seems to vary, doesn't it? But I think you're right, and what that showed is actually, JPP and Sue, they were meeting at the quarterback, which was a really nice thing to be able to see. I think it felt a bit less splashy than last year. I think there was maybe a lot more interceptions. Much tougher on the running game. But as you said, I think it's evened out a little bit. Because to be honest, no one wants to be number one against the rush if you're 32nd against the pass. And I'm exaggerating deliberately, but actually you'd rather be some. Sorry, go on, David.
That's what we were last year.
And you'd rather be somewhere in the middle, and actually, it's a passing league, unless you're playing the Ravens or some sort of 49ers, I suspect, with their injury woes as well. What did you think, though, Phil?
Yeah, I really think that we've got the making of one of the best defenses we've seen for many years. I really do. It's very, very exciting, and I say going back to Devin White, he is going to be a colossus in this league. And I always forget about Will Golston, our good friend Dave. He's the unsung hero there in that defense, isn't he? Always has been, always will be. And then, of course, we've got this other guy called Levante David as well. So, it's very, very exciting for our defense. Really is. I think on the whole, the game was a big step forward for us. Anyway, if you see Tom Brady on his little video today, he's very excited. Anyway, so
keep Tom happy. That's the secret to success.
Well, yeah, he's bringing a total new mindset to that team. Total. I mean, it's like having a schoolmaster, isn't it? When he was swearing on the sideline, they're all sitting there thinking, "I've done my homework," And it was. I thought it was incredible. Really did. And first player down to congratulate the touchdown scorer, Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm. So special teams, as ever, third of the game. We try not to always focus on the kicker, of course. Ian, maybe we'll come to you first on this one. It felt like progress, didn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I was thinking of, I think it's an Oscar Wilde quote, which is, there's only one thing worse than being talked about, and that's not being talked about. And I don't think it applies in the case of the Buccaneers special teams. I think not being talked about is a good thing. I think we've obviously had the trials and tribulations at the kicker level. Last week we had the miscommunication, which led to a muff on a Saints kickoff. So, I mean, just great, wasn't it? Got all the 4 extra points.
And we know mistakes can be made on kickoffs, don't we, Atlanta?
So we, Suckup got all his kicks. The punts were fine. There weren't any significant punt returns. And don't forget, we stopped them on the fake punt as well on fourth down. So
I thought it was so odd they were punting then. I thought, oh, you're close enough. It's worth a kick, isn't it? And then they landed the punt. I was like, what's a bit defensive? And then they tried the snap, didn't they? Yeah.
So hey guys, none of us mentioned the flea flicker yet.
Of course.
Oh no.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of a special play. We can count that as special teams.
Yeah.
We know our good friend Gary Butley is very keen on flea flickers and trick plays. It's nice to see us actually and something early in the season and when we didn't need to do it, because what I like from that perspective is actually now in week 3, in week 4, in week 5, all the defenders will have seen that, and if they bite too early on the run, or is it a play fake? It's something else to think about, even if we never run it again.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree. I think it was an amazing thing to see, wasn't it? Especially from the Buccaneers, really. It isn't really something that Bruce Arians does, does it? Really, it's
well, maybe it's Byron, taking the reins a little bit. It's always hard for us, I think, on the outside. I don't really know. I mean, I know Byron's calling the plays, but I know that the script is probably Bruce's. So it's to understand that freedom and that transition, because I mean, the other worry is if we do too well. What happens to coordinators at the end of the year as well,
Or it could have been Tom Brady.
It could have been. Apparently, the sneak, it turns out, from the week 1 was an audible by him. Apparently, there's something he does to Ryan Jensen's bottom, which indicates that he wants to sneak with it. But,
I'll tell you one thing about special teams. Really, let's be quite honest. After the Saints game, there's only one way for the special teams, isn't it? And that's up, because they couldn't go down much further, And
have you ever seen the Bucs play?
Yeah, true. I think what a special mention here for Mr. Grayson, Cyril Grayson, who has managed yet again to put the Bucs in all blooper DVDs for at least for the next 10 years, hasn't he? Damn, mate. Stick to special teams, Cyril, and just stay there.
Absolutely. So, as ever, our members had something to say about the game, and we'll have a quick look at them. In the meantime, you guys have got to be thinking about what you're going to do with your magic wand. So I'm going to give you Bruce Arians' magic wand when we come back, and you can think about what the next step is to look better. So here was Daniel Markowski on the forum, and he was saying, and breathe. A mixed bag, but the first half performance got us the win. Second was sloppy, but a W is a W. And I think we all felt that way, because 1-1 is a whole lot better than 0-2. 0-2, the season's not over, it's really early, but there's that little bit of panic in the back of your mind. And then we have Stuart Hill. Nice. I feel relieved to get the win. Nice to see Brady hooking up with Evans, and Fournette looked a good finisher. Hoping to see more of the tight ends next week. So, yeah, I think all the stuff we've already picked up on about those tight ends. And Tom Lawrence, and I hope he won't mind, I took another picture from his Twitter feed. So a win and things seem to have been starting to click. We have a run game and a defense that can make things happen. Once Brady's had more time to get something going with the receivers, you'll imagine he'll only get stronger. And if you want your child to get stronger, you need to feed them Buccaneers juice. So I think that was brilliant. So well done to you, Tom. And from Scott McCowan, well, we had to throw in some typical Tampa nervousness into that second half, but most important right now is that W. If we can replace the drops with catches, then the game looks completely different, I think. We're off the mark, and Fournette looks a big positive. Actually, we talked about those drops, and actually, if each of those does go the other way, that game isn't even close, is it? It's a whitewash. And last, but by no means least, the inimitable Dom Hodgkinson, who, if you're watching in a few weeks' time, you'll get to see co-hosting. I can't believe we're going to let him loose with a microphone. I'd like to dedicate that wing to the drunk Panthers fan who sat behind me at the game in London last year and never shut up. I hope he's crying into his beer tonight.
So, I mean, I think, one of the things we've all recognised, which is a huge positive, is that Brady's still a work in progress, isn't it? He's no pre-season, only the second game with the team. I think it was Brady in the post-game press conference that said, there's a long way. We're a long way still from where we need to be. So, that's can only be a positive, isn't it, in terms of the opportunity to get even better.
So is your magic wand then, increased progress, linear progression for the Brady man?
What in terms of my, I've probably, have covered it already. I think what I'd like, one change I'd like to make is just see the tight ends being brought into the passing game more.
Any particular one?
Any of the three of them.
You don't mind? I think they're all capable, aren't they?
They're all very capable. I mean, we saw how good Brait was the year before last. I mean, we just got to utilise the players we've got, I think.
Okay, David, you are now Coach Arians. You can pull down your COVID mask and tell us what you're going to do.
Okay, I think it's keep building on that run game. We saw the glimpses of it, Fournette making that break, but we've not made many big breaks, not many big splash plays in recent years. And I think we just need to keep pounding that run game. That'll take all the pressure off Brady then, and then we'll be able to sort of drop it down the field. And again, that'll be to our receivers, release the tight ends. But yeah, I want to see more of a run game from the Bucs.
And Mr. Jones, as one experienced veteran to another, if you were Bruce, what would you be doing?
I'd be sort of trying to minimise the mistakes. I mean, we've all alluded to it earlier on. There's the McCoy drop, the Miller. You can think of one or two more. If you can just sort of tighten things up a bit, and I think that we were some very exciting times ahead. But I keep going back to the same point. This is week 2 with no pre-season. What a massive improvement on week 1. Huge improvement, and I'm really excited about the Denver game this weekend. It's only going to get better because Brady won't allow anything else.
We'll hold that thought. We're going to talk all about Denver in a minute, but first we've got some competitions to update on. As ever, obviously, we have to give our thanks to Buck Report for their help in promoting us. Make sure you follow us on all the various Twitters, Facebooks, and Instagrams. Make sure you're logged into the forum during the games. As I've said, subscribe to us on YouTube. Our competition this week was to guess how many running yards the Bucs would allow the Panthers to have. And the final yards total was 87. And no one got it close on, but we do have one person either side. And actually, there's one person in the background of this call that doesn't know they're about to be mentioned. But Gary Bottley was 1 yard out, picking 88 yards. And on the other side, David Chambers was 1 yard out. So we have a stalemate. So Gary and David, you are on the wheel of names, and we shall see who is the winner of this week's competition. So Gary or David, who will win the Bucs UK mug, T-shirt, and I think there was a really good cap in there as well. Here we go. Oh, that logo makes me dizzy. Oh, it looks like it's going to be Gary. Oh, no, David, I am so sorry. You're never going to believe us. Actually, what you don't know is that's really the 15th time we spun it, and every time it came up Dave Chambers. I'm sorry, David. You'll have to fight with Gary over that. We do also have our weekly competition, and you can see here last week Ryan Isherwood was kind enough to give away a T-shirt to our members, and blown away we were when Graham Beveridge did the exact same thing this week. He said, I also have a T-shirt that I brought back from Tampa, and I'd love to share with members. So those of you that were on the forum on Sunday got entered into the draw. You can see your names here, and we shall let the wheel of names do its thing, and we shall see who is the winner. So eyes down for a full house. This is it. This is the Bucs UK free T-shirts going willy-nilly. Oh, it's Time Lewis. I've spelled his name wrong. So, oh my goodness. Gary and Tim have won a competition. No one is going to believe that was in any way random, but I promise you'll just have to take the judge's word for it. So those are our competition winners this week. Hopefully, we'll try and get someone that hasn't been a member of the club for 50 years to win next week, and we'll go from there. But hey, there's clearly some benefits from hanging around a while. At which point, then, we shall go on to the preview for next week's game as we travel to the Broncos. Looking ahead, week 3, it's all about the Broncos. We're on to Denver, Empower at Mile High, and it's looking like we're in with a shout, isn't it, David?
Well, you've got to think so. I mean, the biggest thing about Denver at the minute is they've lost so many players already this season. I mean, the big thing is no Von Miller to start with, which the whole league's got to be happy about. And then, apart from sort of Cortland Sutton, wide receiver, going down, they've now lost a quarterback. Obviously, Jeff Driscoll took over this week, but news on the Fed tonight is they're signing Blake Bortles.
No.
Yeah, so released tonight. So they're looking to sign him on a 1-year contract.
Will he be ready to start in time, do you think?
Well, apparently he's got to go through a COVID test, but that's what they're aiming to do. So, we're always, when we expect we're playing against a backup or a new quarterback, Bucs always struggle, don't they? So
the Bucs make backups look like Pro Bowlers with alarming regularity.
Yeah. So, but, you've got to fancy yourselves. Although, having said that, Denver, they've lost those players. They've had a couple of tough games, but both games, they've still battled and they've only lost by 1 score. There's obviously some good team spirit and some fight about them. So I don't think it's just going to be a walkover. Okay,
interesting. So I think so. The QB was the main point I think I took from that. Phil, what's your sort of headlines then looking for the Broncos?
Well, yeah, same sort of thing, really. I mean, I was looking through their injury list today, and it was like a who's who of the Broncos roster. I mean, not only is what the players that Dave mentioned out, the TJ Boye is not playing. They've got a host of defensive ends out, and of course, Philip Lindsay, the running back's looking very doubtful as well. And so, we're in an ideal situation to take them up there. And be quite honest, if we improve like we improved from in the Panthers game from the Saints game, then I think we'll win.
I think actually it's interesting you mentioned Philip Lindsay, because obviously that means Melvin Gordon is probably the one shouldering the majority of the carries at running back. I've always got a lot of time for him.
Yeah, I have too. I think he's a very good player. Not the most durable running back though, is he? Really? So, and Denver do like to run by committee, don't they? Philip Lindsay is a doubtful starter for the weekend, and of course they've also was it the first round pick, Judy? Or was it second round pick? He's banged up as well. He's the
receiver. This is Jerry Judy, isn't it?
Yeah, Jerry Judy. Yeah. So really, they're pretty banged up, all the Broncos. So it could be the good time to take them.
Yeah, I mean, also I can't disagree with any of that. As you say, they're kind of pretty banged up at the moment. I think the suggestion was that Bortles probably wouldn't start for 2 or 3 weeks, and they would continue with Jeff Driscoll. But it is a funny old game, isn't it? Because Driscoll's a backup journeyman quarterback. He only came to the Broncos this season. He was thrown in very early in the game. There's obviously a very attacking Steelers defense. I kind of looked at the stats. Driscoll was sacked 6 times. He was hit 17 times. But you know what? The Broncos were in a position to win the game in the last few minutes. So, as I think David was saying, they're a pretty resilient lot. So, I wouldn't immediately write them off. So my key to the game is a slightly different one, which is having watched this game for 30 years, my kind of deep analysis of the key to any game is scoring more points than the opposition.
Ooh,
So
that's a good idea.
It's fantastic. So what I think the key to the game is the Bucs offense just making that kind of incremental step forward that we've talked about. We saw obviously a great move from week 1 to week 2, and I think therefore the key to the game is seeing that progress on offense into week 3. We don't have to become world beaters. We just have to get that little bit better.
Okay, and is there one player on offense you think, if I could suddenly, ramp up the mark out of 10 and make sure someone, puts in a 10 out of 10 game, who would that be?
What, for the Bucs?
Yeah, well, so the offense, who's going to be the spark, or who's going to be that playmaker on offense?
Well, I mean, it's very easy to say it, isn't it? To say Mike Evans, but I will say Mike Evans because he's obviously getting healthier. He had his hamstring problems, but also obviously each week in practice, each game, he's getting more and more reps with Brady, and so I think we might get the Mike Evans standout game that we've been waiting for.
Mm. Yeah, I think that's a good point actually, and because not only it was obvious on Sunday's night's game that Brady and Evans were getting on the same page, but when you've got Godwin on the other side, you can't keep both. You've got to keep an eye on both of them. You got 2 first-class receivers. So yeah, I think I agree with you. I think Evans will be could be a standout player.
But is that if you could suddenly hate to go spinal tap on you, if you could put someone up to 11, who would you really want to show up to the game?
Leonard Fournette.
See, that's who I was thinking.
Straight in. I want to see a run game. And I think this is the ideal time to do it.
I also just want to see a lot more screen passes.
Getting Shady more involved.
I think so. I think if you were going to ask me who I was going to pick as a player, I actually would have said the guards. It's kind of because Denver have got like a 3-4, and it's whoever's looking over at Bradley Chubb, whoever's going to sort of try and get to the next level and take because he's a Pro Bowler. He's had a bad time of late, but he's by far, I think, the most capable person in that front part of the defense. And I think whoever a bit like when you're playing Cam Newton, you've got to man mark him. You need to know, I think, where Chubb is, and you need to make sure you're going somewhere else. I think that would be what I would say. But I think so. Screen passes, just making them their first step not be running towards Brady's throat, basically.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, because that's what Brady did a lot of it, didn't he, up with the Patriots, and just dumping it off and just keeping it simple. And yeah, I think that's a very valid point. Man.
And it's a slight segue about dumping it off and keeping it simple. We've only just seen the Saints, and we're not going to see them again for a little while yet. But that seems to be, an example of how a short passing game can work. Whether or not it's because Drew's got no arm anymore or not, or whether they're scheming it that way, I kind of see that as the blueprint for how we ought to try and succeed. They've got Kamara, we've got Fournette. I think they're both capable, and we've got Brady and they've got Breeze. We match up really well in terms of style. Maybe it's just about continuity. So I'm going to make you put your money where your mouth is, and we should be keeping tab on this, but I'll give you good odds. I'll give you good odds on the Bucs win. So Ian, what do you think's the score?
I mean, there's no easy game and all that, and I think especially with there having been no pre-season, I think there's been a leveling out. So I've got the Bucs to win 27-20.
Ooh, okay, a one-score game for you. And David, what do you think?
I'm at 27-17. I think the offense is there. I still think they'll put a bit of a fight up, and I don't think we should forget Noah Font, their tight end as well. He's a big fellow, and I still need him to get some points because he's on my fantasy team. So,
that's a conflict of interest if ever I heard one.
But I've got Bucs defense as well. So
rocking a hard place, Phil.
Yes, I think 24-17. I think it's going to be a close game. Yeah, close game. Mind you, I've got Melvin Gordon on my fantasy team, though. So.
I'm surrounded by traitors, all of you. So I think this is going to be super, super close. And actually, if you look across the league, so many of the games have been decided late in the fourth quarter. Everyone's missing out on the preseason. I think the very first point that we made, how well the Bucs make backup quarterbacks look. I think this could be a chance to go into overtime. I think for the Bucs, we could get some free football, as they say, to borrow the ice hockey term. We could get some free football. I think the Bucs edge it though. I'm not going to commit to a number, but it's probably going to be quite a high one. I think certainly watching Driscoll, when I watched the highlights of their last game, he's got a really good throw over the middle. And he's got a delicate touch when he's throwing on the outside. So, you know, if assuming it's Driscoll under center and you're right, it's not Bortles in time, I think we're going to see a lot of yards. I hope I'm wrong.
I mean, although he got hit a lot, he's still got 250 odd yards and 2 touchdowns. You know, he's a resilient guy in there.
And as David said, there's Noah Font, isn't there, who got touchdowns in both of their opening games. We're sometimes not very good, are we, at containing short yardage passes to tight ends. So yeah, he would be one to watch from my perspective on the Broncos side.
As ever, when I'm the voice of doom, I always hope that I'm horribly
I was
wrong.
going to say, as soon as you started talking, a shiver went down my spine because you're the only one that called the Saints game, and I thought, oh no, he's going to do it again. You know.
Well, just make sure I don't do anything. I'll have to really think carefully about what the competition is this week. So there, okay. Right, well, I think that's our time. So I think that was really, really good chat. Thanks, guys. And thank you all for watching. We really appreciate it. We're really pleased when we look at the stats that you guys are actually watching and hanging around for a lot of the show. That means an awful lot to us. So it's goodbye from Phil.
See you. Bye.
And from David.
Cheers. Good luck. Go
and
Bucs.
Our first-time host will be back again soon, Ian.
Thank you. Goodbye.
That's goodbye from me. Thank you.